Offensive coordinator Brian Callahan is in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics today. And I'll tell you, it's great that you joined us because Brian Callahan breaks down a couple of things that a lot of key performers for his offensive football team do, whether it be mentally or physically, tangibly or intangibly. He has a lot of interesting things to say. He discusses Joe Burrow, the greatness of Joe Burrow, and how Joe Burrow can compartmentalize, and contract negotiations will not phase what Joe Burrow is doing in training camp. And he is the heart and soul of the football team, as Mike Brown and many others are going to tell you. There's no question about it. That's the universal opinion of all. This Cincinnati Bengals offense is going to be dynamic. There's no doubt. They have weapons extraordinaire. They can throw the football as well or better than anybody in the league. And when they run the ball, they can run it efficiently and effectively. That's a recipe for success. Brian Callahan, you're going to like it. Thanks for taking the time to join us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, coming to you from our studios as always. And we have a very, very special guest as training camp gets underway. Offensive coordinator Brian Callahan. He's kind of one of the masterminds that puts it all together. It's like a big puzzle, spreading the field, taking advantage of all quadrants of the football field, have all kinds of skilled players to utilize in that regard, line them up all kinds of different ways. Nobody has a more creative football mind than offensive coordinator Brian Callahan. Thanks for joining us, sir.
You got it. I need you to follow me around and do that more often.
So, you've already been underway for a little bit. You've had the young guys out there and some veteran players. Joe Burrow is out there throwing to young players.
Yep.
What's it look like so far?
Not much.
I hear you.
Yeah, it looks. Guys look good. The guys the rookies have come back. It's a chance for them to, get their legs under them, get a couple day head start on the veterans, because as we all know that they're competing for jobs now.
Right.
It's time to go. It's for real. The roster's got to get cut in five-ish weeks, and so the urgency picks up. And those guys came back. They look good and look like they're ready to get going. But the most exciting part is when you get to actually practice and go full speed, which we haven't done since last January. So excited to get going. So
the Joe Burrow contract is the big thing that's hanging over everybody. It's and like Mike Brown said recently at the kickoff luncheon, he's the heart and soul of the whole thing. I admire him though because he is so focused. He's able to say, okay, well I got to compartmentalize that. I've got people to handle that. I'm football, and here it is, football time. And he's out there, early and getting things done with the younger players. What does that say about Joe Burrow?
He has a unique ability, I think, as a lot of players learn as they go along. But like you just said, he compartmentalizes. There's a business side of football, then there's the football side of football, and they coexist together. And he does a good job of handling his business in all facets. He has plenty of off the field ventures that he does, and philanthropy, and the contract is just another part of that. So he's got a great team of people around him. So he knows when it's time to focus on football, which is now. It's time to go. The other people handle those things and run the business part for him, and he knows how to handle it. He's a professional. He's incredibly mature for his age, and he understands the weight of the expectations on him and our organization. And so he'll be here ready to go. And the business side will take care of itself when it takes care of itself. And thankfully, I don't have to worry about it. That's not my problem.
Right.
But it is good to have guys that understand that there is two sides to this, and be able to compartmentalize and handle their business on both sides the right way, which is appreciated.
No question about it. Tremendous leadership shown, in that regard, as well as almost every regard, as far as Joe's concerned. Knock on wood, what would it be like to have Joe Burrow for a full training camp. I mean, you haven't had the opportunity to experience that, and here he's playing. You know, the contract is in the back of his mind, but he wants to go out there and get a full camp in and hit the ground running in terms of the opener and get off to a fast start. That's a big key this year, that quick start, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think having Joe, you know, we don't know what a normal training camp is like for Joe yet.
Right.
So excited for that to be the case, because, you know, by the time he gets all these reps under his belt and is ready to play in September, I think you're going to see you know, if you can imagine it, an even more improved Joe Burrow than you've seen thus far, and that's exciting. I do think that the fast start's critical because we have 2 divisional games to open the season. You know, weeks 1 and 2 are one of them's on the road, and you know, those are games that we have to find a way to pick up early, especially when you're looking at teams that could be breaking in, you know, new systems on either side of the ball. Baltimore on offense, Cleveland on defense, and but they're teams that we still know. We know their players and their talent, and we'll have our hands full. We have work cut out for us if we want to start fast. You know, we got a lot of work to be done still, and excited about that challenge. But certainly 2 divisional games out the gate is, you know, you have to start fast. There really isn't much of a leeway in that early part of the season. We got to get going.
And a big factor in that is taking care of the football, you know, valuing every possession. Don't give extra possessions to teams like Cleveland and Baltimore. That's a big deal too, isn't it? Taking care of the ball early on, as well as it is all year long, obviously.
Yeah, but you see those early games, that tends to be, you know, that's what put us in a hole last year in our opener,
right,
that we had a chance to win, but ultimately didn't put ourselves in the best position early on in the game. But yeah, anytime early, especially early in the season, the turnover part's a huge determining factor. It always is, but you know, early games, things can get a little sideways, and guys aren't fully in their mid-season form, and so you do the best you can to limit the mistakes. And usually the teams that make the least amount of mistakes that are critical in a game tend to find a way to win those early matches. So we got to be on top of our stuff and on top of the turnovers, and hopefully put ourselves in a good position.
I think, you know, something that separates Joe from just about anybody, quarterbacks or coaches or whatever, that he sees the entire width of the field and the entire length of the field, and can tell you when he comes to the sideline, he probably can tell you where everybody's lined up, you know, every single snap that just occurred. His ability to recognize it, you know, and then to remember it, the 2 R's, you know, recognition and remember, are huge in his mindset, aren't they?
Yeah, it's one of his real gifts. Is he has an incredible spatial awareness for what is around him, for what people are doing, and a really deep understanding of our offense versus whatever we're going to be playing against structurally and schematically. So that allows him to really have a great feel for what he's going to see going into the game, and then he's got a great ability to process and recognize in game, and that's what makes him great. I mean, that's what separates, you know, just okay to good quarterbacks to the elite quarterbacks in our league, and Joe's got an incredible ability to see and process. I think, like you said, there's a recognition part, there's a execution part, and there's also a communication part that goes into that as well, with making sure everyone's on the same page. And he does all 3 of those things at about a high level as you can ask for a quarterback.
So that's one of his traits, you know, the mental, intangible part of it kind of thing. How about the tangible, the physical part of it? What is it physically? Give me something that Joe does at such a high level from a purely physical aspect as a quarterback.
You know, he probably is as rock solid a technical thrower that you could be. He spends a lot of time thinking about it, a lot of time working on it, just in terms of being efficient with his release, the quickness of his release. His footwork is really important. So those parts of his fundamental game that probably get overlooked and underappreciated in the world, but really think that those are his fundamental game. His mechanical game is probably as good as anybody in football, and he wastes no motion. He's really efficient, and his ability to get the ball out of his hand fast with good velocity is a physical trait that he does have that's as good as anybody's when it comes to that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but those are the things that I admire and think are unique to him.
No, I think that answers it extremely well. Let's play that game with a few other guys. You know, a couple of things that blank does best.
Sure.
Jamar Chase. Give me a couple of things in your estimation that Jamar Chase does well that separates him.
I would say his play strength is probably second to none.
Mm-hmm.
He plays as strong as you could ask a receiver to play, both going up to get the ball, in the route stem, on the route release. He's just a really strong football player, and that allows him to get himself into really great positions to make catches and make yards after catch. You know, I always think catching a football is a prerequisite for a receiver, but his ability to go make plays on the ball, I think, is what separates him from everybody else that plays. And he's got a great understanding of the game too. He's incredibly intelligent when it comes to the leverages he's seeing, the coverage he sees, how he thinks he can get open. I love hearing his feedback in practice and on game day, what he sees out there and how he feels he can go win a matchup. So, you know, I think he's the best receiver in football.
T. Higgins, his running mate.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever just stand across from T and watch him run at you, but it's pretty intimidating. He's big and he's strong. He's got great ability for his size to sink his hips and get out of the top of a break. That's a really impressive part of his game, is that he can really explode off the ball, but that he can get that big body down and sink his hips and accelerate out of a break, which is really impressive. But you know, there's not many people I think that can go up above the rim, as they say, to go get the ball better than him. I think he's as good a combat contested catch player that you can find. And again, just him and Jamar just love football. They love working. They love practice. They're on top of the physical talent. They're really great people to be around and fun to coach.
Well, the common thread though with both of those guys is like strength. Maybe their strength is a little bit different, but both of them are like not just able to run, but just can like overpower you with their physicality, can't they?
Yeah, that's what wins in this league. You know, if you got guys on the outside that can go separate and win one-on-one versus, you know, pretty good corners that they're going to face most of the time. Guys are physical, put their hands on them. That's the mark of what separates receivers in this league, I think, is the guys that can play a little more physical than the defenders and don't get pushed around and don't get moved off landmarks, and they're able to hold the line and be able to do all the technique things that you ask guys to do. But the strength is a huge part of it.
What about Tyler Boyd?
Mr. Efficient, you know, he's as good a underneath field receiver. You know, probably one of the best 2 or 3 that I've seen in my career, just as far as understanding voids in zones, understanding leverages of defenders, and just having a really natural feel for playing football. And he is about as clutch as you can ask for in terms of the game in, game out, third down conversions, tough catches, tough ask. I think it's pretty fun to watch Tyler play football just because he's such a natural football player.
Do you think him having played the quarterback position at one stage of his career is a factor in him understanding what you're talking about with that route running and the underneath stuff?
I'm sure it helped, especially early on in his career, but I think now he just has so many reps invested in playing his position that he's become you know, a master at it to some degree. You know, he's got a great feel for playing inside and all the things that means, all the different looks you see. And then again, just to be as dependable and reliable as he is, catching the football in big moments is, I think, what separates him.
Now that you've seen Irv Smith Jr. up close and personal for a little bit, give us a couple of things about him.
Yeah, really, to me, he's an excellent route runner. He's got great route quickness, ability to separate at the top. He's got good speed, different style than we've had at the tight end. He's a good speed and good route runner, which I think will give us a little bit different dynamic in the pass game. He's a natural catcher. You know, all the things about the tight end position that you look for, he possesses. He just has a different style in the pass game than we're used to. So excited to see how he fits and where we can use him. You know, but I think he's going to be a good addition for us this year, particularly as a pass catcher.
And a new addition up front in the offensive line, Orlando Brown Jr. What do you give me a couple of things about him that has impressed you?
First is his mindset and demeanor on day to day. You know, he's a guy that wants to be great, and you can see it in the way he works and his attention to the fundamentals, the details, his ability to pick up a new scheme quickly. That part's been really impressive. He's got a great personality. He's great for the locker room. He's great for the offensive line room. I mean, you see all those things when you watch him. Physically, he's imposing. You know, he's as big a man as you could want to be playing tackle.
Right.
But he's got great feet and great understanding of the game. And so he can use all his physical traits on top of the mental gift he has as a son of a former player. And you can just see all the knowledge of years of watching football that he has. And it's really impressive to add that to his physical talent. I think he's a huge addition for us.
He's the son of a former player. You're the son of an offensive line coach that I think is the best that has done it. It doesn't take long to call roll, and that's before you get to Coach Bill Callahan. There's no question about that. So your experience has been offensive line driven in a lot of areas, not just Orlando Brown, but what do you think about the group up front? Give me a couple of things about how they perform up front that because you can have all the skilled players you want, Coach. If they're not getting it done up front for you, it can be tough sledding, can it?
Yeah, and I think that we're in as good a position as we could ask for going into this season, just because, you know, Orlando's proven over his career to be the caliber of player that you want. Cordell has really done a nice job in his first year, and hopefully that you see a nice jump in his second year. You know, that first to second year, getting comfortable. He's thinking a lot less about what to do and focusing way more on how to do it more effectively. And so he's tough, he's dependable, he's physical. You put him with the mayor of Cincinnati, Teddy Karras,
Right.
And you have a pretty good pairing inside, mentally, mindset wise. And then with Kappa, obviously, I thought Kappa was playing at a Pro Bowl level before he got hurt last year. And really, I think he's as good an interior guard as far as size and strength and intelligence. Those three inside are as smart as it comes, and they really do a great job with their communication. And so I feel great about those guys. You know, they've played a lot of football. They're proven players, and I'm excited to see what that group's going to look like.
So 3 guys were put on the PUP list. LC Collins is on the PUP list as an offensive tackle, and so is Devin Cochran, a backup offensive tackle with knee injuries. But Jonah Williams passed the physical, and he's ready to roll. That right tackle position, are you as obviously intrigued and as interested as anybody to see how that pans out?
Yeah, you know, Jonah's been a reliable player for us for his career here, and so seeing him switch sides, you know, there's probably a little bit of a learning curve there, but you know, I expect him to jump in pretty quickly and perform well. I do think that, you know, we're still going to have to manage him a little bit. He's coming off an injury, so we'll have to be smart. But you know, I have high expectations for Jonah. He has high expectations for himself. Obviously, having Jackson Carman play, you know, a bunch of tackle there at the end of last year helped his confidence and growth, and we'll see what he looks like competing on that right side as well. So it's a good group. You know, LC will be back when he's back, but at least now we feel like we have really quality players at all starting 5 positions, no matter how it shakes out. And then again, we'll have quality depth behind them because you need all those guys over the course of a season. It's just the way it goes. Guys get injured and dinged up, and we need guys to step up. And thankfully, we have a bunch of guys that have a lot of experience now behind them.
I agree, boy. I think the O-line depth is outstanding, and as well as the depth on the entire roster. It's been put together exceptionally well. You know, my favorite thing about the offensive line is it's like making a fist. You know, you don't have to think about it, you know, curling your fingers and wrapping your thumb around. It just kind of happens. And when a group's playing well together, it's just like that, and it's strong like a fist. And you've got 4 guys that have all played a lot of football, and Jonah flipping sides potentially, or LC, or excuse me, Jackson Carman or LC. I mean, you got guys. Now in Orlando, he's new to the dance, but like you said, he picks it up also quickly. And he's a 4-time Pro Bowler, 2 Pro Bowls at each position, right and left tackle. I'm really excited about how quickly the interior of the offensive line, I think, is going to be that fist is going to be made real quickly. And then just the guards and tackles getting used to playing next to each other. It's going to happen quickly, I think, with the caliber of people you have up there.
Yeah, and that's the hope and the goal. I mean, obviously we were breaking in what amounted to really 3 new starters last year, really 4 new starters, and so
right.
I think you saw that, and I think you saw the effects of that early in the year. And I think now we have a really good feel for what our guys are and what they do well, and how we're going to put them in the best positions. And I think it'll allow us to start faster, hopefully, than we did last year as far as just that group goes, and feel a lot better about where we're headed faster than we did a year ago, which is good. That's what you hope for when you have a returning group and a veteran group. That's the goal. So really excited about what that could look like for us. And again, a lot of work ahead to get to that point, but feel good about where we're at and here in July 25th.
And I guess the question is, okay, you've got so many smart guys. You've talked about how intelligent the receivers are. Your quarterback is Menza. The offensive line has got some raw intelligence and football intelligence as well. As a coaching staff, where is that fine line, that line of demarcation of, okay, we got too much in, we're overloading here, and we want to have a few things that we can really rely on, but these guys are so capable, let's give them more and more. Is that kind of a tough thing to balance when you have people like you have to coach?
It can be. I don't know that I feel that way at this point. I feel like we have the benefit of continuity as well. I mean, a lot of these guys have been hearing the same terms for some guys for 5 years, some for 4, some for 3. I mean, we've got some good continuity in the system and the experience, from top to bottom, coaches and players included. So that part makes it a lot more comfortable. I do always tend to lean on the do less better. I mean, there's you want to be able to have some identity in what you're doing and who you are, and know that when the moments get tough in games, you can just do the things that you've been doing since day one of training camp and go win a game and execute because we've had so many reps invested. So I think that we've always worked through with that philosophy of being able to be simple enough, and then doing the things you have to do to provide some illusion of complexity sometimes. So the more reps you get in things and the better you are at something that you can lean on, I think we've always subscribed to that. So I don't think that'll change, and we'll still find ways to add wrinkles, but we're not afraid of being simple. That's for sure.
Boy, illusion of complexity. That takes me back to Bill Walsh, 1974, when I was a rookie in the NFL. He's like, hey man, we've got like these 5 plays in our run game. We have these half a dozen plays in our pass game, and we're going to give them a million different looks as to how we're going to do it. But when push comes to shove, we're doing these concepts. We're doing these 5 things in the running game, half a dozen things in the passing game. And we're going to confuse the hell out of people, and we're going to formation them, and we're going to do it. But man, you guys up front in particular, you got to get it done right here. You got to get it done. This is what we're going to do in these handful of plays. And I thought it was brilliant, man. That guy obviously was brilliant, but about the run game, you make the change. Frank makes the change to the gap scheme, and about halfway through the year, and man, the run game just takes off. At some point, even though you throw it as well or better than anybody in the National Football League, when you run it, you have to run it proficiently and effectively, and that's the goal, right? Yeah,
and that's how we measure our rush success. We're a passing offense. We're never going to likely lead the league in volume of rushes. That's just the way we're set up. That's what our strengths are. But when we do run the ball, we do have very specific goals as far as efficiency goes. We're trying to get into that 5 yard per carry plus realm. When we're handing the ball off, we're staying efficient, we're staying on track, and we're converting. When opportunities arise, converting into first downs. And so, we're going to rush the ball when we have the advantage. We're going to put teams in conflict, and we're still going to run it. I mean, the run game is still a part of football. I know that all the discourse out there about running backs and all that stuff is all there in the run game and that, but we're still going to have to run the football, and everybody has to run the football. And we'll tend to do it maybe a little bit differently than some teams do, but it's still an emphasis for us, and our schemes still match the fact that we're going to have moments where we got to run it, and we're going to need to be able to be successful at it.
And let me get you out of here on this, Coach. I should have made mention of this gentleman earlier when we were doing our couple of things, a couple of points about each player. Joe Mixon in that running game. Give us 2 things about Joe Mixon that impress you.
Yeah, I think just his demeanor that he runs with. He's big and strong, and he gives you a physical presence that's hard to tackle. Defenses always tend to be leery of him. Over the years, just talking to guys, and you play him, they all think very highly of him and have a lot of respect for him as a runner. So that shows you that means it's a tough out when they watch him on tape. Defenses go, this is going to be hard. He's a hard charging downhill, big, strong runner. And those things, they have an effect on teams. And so that part I love. And then his energy and his leadership ability, as a veteran player, when he gets going, you feel him, and I think that permeates throughout our team. And I think that's the mark of a lot of good players, is if their energy raises the level of the guys around them. And I think he does that.
Coach, can't thank you enough for carving time for us. Training camp is underway, and man, a good training camp leads to a good season. There's no question about it. I always thought there was a good correlation. So good luck in this one, and get after it, Coach.
Yeah, it's the best time of the year.
Best time of the year, for sure.
Appreciate
you as always.
Yep. Yeah, it's always a pleasure coming on.
Thank you.
See you later.
Have a great one.
You too.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.